It started with talk of a clueless cabinet, and it was followed swiftly by images of long queues of seemingly clueless members of the public out to hand out their last shred of highly sensitive personal data to an entity whose name must have been instantly appealing. And so, it is raining cabinet secretaries and coins, even as the skyrocketing sugar prices are about to steal the sweetness out of your favorite hot beverage. But farmers are supposed to be smiling if fertilizer prices is anything to go by. But payslip holders have a different story to tell, as the Finance Act returns with a vengeance. And vengeance of a moral equivalent is what I seek in my memo tonight, as I shudder at the thought of a pickpocket's hand and a dead man's bag that is somewhere in Londiani. In some sense, would the radical changes in the education sector make sense in the eyes of a student? Kaikai's kicker kicks the irony of shortages in the midst of plenty, with sugar and maize spilling over. Yvonne's take is hopefully a hot cup of some beverage this cold night as the take resumes next week. This is the News Gang.
We stopped that activity and all other similar activities so that you don't wait until there is a similar activity. So we are looking at this in terms of the current problem in Kajiado, but also the potential spiral counties.
All right, and Joki Shege is with us on sign language. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. That is our Interior Security Minister, Professor Kithure Kindiki, on a phenomenon that we still don't really understand how it made its way here, a world coin. What is happening? There's a flurry of contradictory statements from cabinet secretaries, warnings about data security, something about stopping people from giving their eyeballs because of data security. What's happening, Gituku? Tell us. Why were thousands of people queuing for this?
I think it is the allure for quick money because you register, you get your eyeballs scanned, and something is sent to you. So I saw some of those transactions. Someone is receiving $58, and that can be deposited to your mobile money account. And some were receiving that amount, which is obviously after a conversion, and is being put at more than 7,000 shillings for just that. But I think the details are in when you start to understand, or when you try to understand what WorldCoin is. And of course, looking at it so far with more than 2 million sign-ups or people who have enrolled on it, with the possibility of, once fully rolled out, it's a proper cryptocurrency platform, which has been gaining a lot of traction across the world, but also raising a bit of controversies, knowing that even in the country that conversation has started with the central bank having conversations on how that can actually be regulated. So I think what really shocked the people and those concerned, those in authority, was the fact that people are registering such crucial sensitive data. I'm not sure in the country we have a database that has taken the iris details of Kenyans. I'm not certain, I could be wrong, but even when you go to register for a passport, I think the best they do is to get your biometrics, but also get your facial features, which is usually in the form of an image. But now, at that level, Kenyans have been asking questions. So there has been several conversations between government agencies, and I was looking at some of the terms of privacy that WorldCoin has put on their website, and it talks about so much information that actually, and they use the word may, certain data may be required. And of course, they talk about your names, or your name, the first and last name, the email address, the phone number, the contacts from your address book may be required. But also, it gets deeper when it gets to the point of now you're starting to transact based on that platform to an extent that they may now require you to provide certain details of your business, your government ID, in this case, the national identity card, but also they can get information as far as your accounts are concerned, including one specific mobile money transfer platform that has been mentioned on the WorldCoin is M-Pesa. So that is curious, because if at all they're going to require that information from you, then the concern is about the storage of that information, the shareability of that information, but also what they are going to use that information for, also knowing that they have indicated that they can actually have third parties conducting surveys on how you're using your WorldCoin account. So it is not a new thing to an extent that you have foreign companies accessing Kenyans' data. For instance, there are different taxi platforms that are global. They are here. They have our details. They have your name. They have your email address. They have your phone number. They actually know where you live because they can see the frequent routes that you use. They probably know where you work because they can see the frequency of the installations that you visit. But again, that question is about what are they going to do with this information, especially at a time that they are saying that they want confirmation that you're actually human using your iris data. So they're building a database. The future is unclear on what they're going to do with that information.
And that is the question, Gituku. What are they going to do with the data? Because, you know, they were given a document to sign. And, you know, synonymous with skipping terms and conditions during a software registration, we all do that. 350,000 Kenyans had by Wednesday this week overlooked the 10-page document containing some outstandingly, what you talk about, absurd terms to prove that they are humans. I'm reading here, it talks about how there was so much that was hidden, including the fact that you cannot sue WorldCoin in a court of law or seek compensation. You agree to resolve any disputes between you and WorldCoin through binding arbitration rather than in court. There's weird information about if you decide you want to follow up with them. It says there's nothing clear about how you do that. It talks about how it's an open source software which anyone can copy, paste, and use. So a lot of minefields there. And as I said there, we don't really read terms and conditions. We just say, I accept, you tick it, and you move on swiftly. But then, Linus, before we go to the next point, I'd really like to listen to sound bites of members of parliament speaking about this WorldCoin matter, and then we can continue with the discussion.
Kindiki, Kithure, and Owalo have already differed on the matter of WorldCoin. So who do we believe? Who will the public believe? Is it Kindiki, Kithure, or Eliud Owalo? Who? Neither. If we shall believe neither of the two, then it behoves the appointing authority of those two gentlemen to then give us a response to this issue.
And the response has come. There is a statement from both the Ministry of Interior and the Ministry of Information, Communications and Digital Economy. And it says the aforesaid entity, which is WorldCoin, is not registered as a legal entity in Kenya. Preliminary investigations reveal that the entity has hired a company in Kenya called Sense Marketing to do the data capture for them in the country. And there are two local representatives who are mentioned there who are being interrogated by the DCI since Wednesday. Linus, what happened? How did this company end up being in Kenya, advertising, because advertisements were done online, because people had to know you need to go somewhere to have your eyeballs scanned. And then everything came to a head after the media reported it. What's going on?
I think had it not been for the very public spectacle that was the long queues at the KICC, this story may not probably have been known. If it was happening quietly, say in a software or a website or an app, it could have gone on really quietly. But here was a very, very public display of enthusiasm by members of the public that are looking at this as a potential way of earning a living. And I remember on Tuesday, I was actually in the CBD and I saw these queues. And they were snaking all the way around. You can see the Supreme Court in the background over there. And this queue was actually that long, even to the other end. And then all the way to the Parliament side. So I think we thank, is it these images? Because without these images, this conversation would not have been had. It would have been missed. This would have been happening quietly, just the same way people lose a lot of money through dubious transactions out there. That would have gone on very quietly. So we have this very public spectacle to thank for what we are, the conversation that we are having now, that has gone all the way to Parliament, has also included ministries giving conflicting positions and then later on coming up with the same position. But here is our learning. We are learning very fast as a country. I mean, it's been a very interesting 2 weeks. Remember just a week ago, last week when we sat here, it was about cyber attack. And our systems were being exposed to very serious attacks by people and entities that we do not know. And then now here we are, people are being taken down a path that in my own view looks like a digital Shakahola. Because people are believing they do not know. It's just a matter of faith. $58. How many of them actually would tell you that they got that amount of money? It may reflect in your account as a digit in the number, but you're able to actually retrieve 58 shillings, $58, yeah, convert it to about 7,000, 8,000 shillings, and make any good use of it. Something sad about this whole spectacle. This is the level of desperation in our country. Yeah. These fellow countrymen are actually looking at this opportunity as a life saver. They think their lives could improve from here. Look at the commitment with which they lined up. There was a very interesting picture where, you know, it was a scrum, basically. And there was some civility around it. Everybody, you know, they're squeezing each other, but there's this understanding that, yeah, niku tafuta. And I think we should all be sad about that you can actually come with something like this that looks like a witchcraft tube, put it in some center, and people will line up. Even if you tried a similar thing, and at least with your NEWSGANG background, you can get more crowds. But that is the level of desperation that we have in our country. But I think, like I said, there's a lot of learning that is coming in. Remember, look, we are very much hardware when it comes to security. Just a few weeks ago, I think that the Mandamano, you remember, it was about keeping any protesters from the CBD. And yeah, there were none, actually, largely, because we're that very physical. You know, it's about keep them out there and they'll be out there. But here we had thousands of people at the CBD, thousands of people at the KICC, a majority of them about to actually engage in an activity that is uncertain of the assurances that they are hoping for, that this is going to earn them some money. I think I would equate this to the cyber attack that we had last week. Yeah. It's about the soft issues, about the soft things. Are we able to detect them? And I like the intervention of the Communication Authority and the Commissioner of Data. But belated, I think, I think it was belated. It comes in late. Right. If this company has been in operation, like you said...
We had 350,000 people who had scanned their eyeballs by the time alarm was raised.
Yes. But it took this public images, you know, the television pictures, for the Communication Authority and the Data Commissioner to say, hey, this is something serious. For the House today to get into a session to actually discuss, a motion to discuss the situation. So it is a learning curve for us as a country. There are soft threats that we need to be aware of. You know, even as we prepare, you know, tear gas canisters and all that, there are certain things that need our eyeballs, pun intended, especially in the back room. Just check who is and where are our real threats coming from. They come from the cyberspace, and they come from fellows that carry that very interesting camera around. I mean, they got lots of people, moving, yes.
Exactly. And as we finish this discussion, before you come in, maybe we can just listen to the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Leader of Majority, and then we can continue.
How on earth would a foreigner walk into our country and start mining data from our citizens without license or without recourse to any law or authority? I think as leader of majority in the House, you have a cardinal duty to ensure that the ministers responsible bring cogent explanation to this House.
And even the cautionary statement being given by the Data Commissioner is a little bit too late. because they should have known before they set up camp at KICC. They definitely must have paid somebody to use KICC. The person who allowed them to use KICC should and ought to have verified whether they have been allowed by the data commissioner and they have all the requisite licenses and approvals. Because Honorable Speaker, as Honorable Mukunji rightly says, in this day and age of artificial intelligence, it is possible that Kenyans will be barred from walking through some places.
Is this a matter of blame being shifted? Because Gituku, remember they've already said, the statement from the two ministries, that this is not registered as a legal entity in Kenya. Who dropped the ball? And should you worry about there being other non-registered entities that are running around?
Is this why you said that the eyes have it? Because that device, or is it a gadget that Linus is talking about, it's an orb. And I think this is the first time we're hearing of it that is able to really verify that you are human.
Yeah.
Of course, it's how technology is changing. And interesting enough is that according to the statement from the two ministers, as early as 19th of April 2022, the data commissioner and her office had actually learned of registration booths that were going on in the country.
Yeah.
And in May, they gave a 60-day suspension. That was May 2022. They gave a suspension. Then on May 30, 2023, that's when they directed cessation of processing of this sensitive data. But also the statement talks about that there was an application that had been, application for a certificate of registration which had been issued, recognizing WorldCoin as a data controller. And this was given by the data commissioner. And this has been a while. So, but now the statement also says that this does not give an entity the power. It doesn't endorse an entity's compliance with the Data Protection Act or its subsidiary regulations. So it is interesting to see that this has been going on. But then again, even as the Speaker of the National Assembly is talking about how someone just comes in the country and starts to register people's sensitive information, if you have to look at the law in terms of how a foreign institution or foreign company gets registered in Kenya, they talk about certain documentation that they have to present to the country. First of all, they have to figure out to search, just like you do when you're registering a company in Kenya. They have to search whether that name is registered. And then there's a litany of documentation that they have to present, including the certificate of registration from their mother country, in this case, San Francisco, where they originate. But then again, even as they do that, they must also appoint a local representative that is who will be working with them for what. So there are several forms that are supposed to be assessed before really such an organization can be registered as a legal entity in Kenya. And I think that's what the two ministers are talking about. But there's something also that you notice. They are giving a suspension. They're not necessarily giving a blanket condemnation that WorldCoin will not operate in Kenya. So in the coming days, upon the investigations that are ongoing, you may find that eventually it might be cleared because, I mean, it's a part of the technology in the world where the world is going, but also very sensitive issues. We understand that actually on the privacy terms of WorldCoin, they have specifically indicated that it does not operate in the US. US citizens are not eligible to register on WorldCoin, obviously because of certain concerns. Apart from data privacy and such matters, there's also the concern of where the the cryptocurrency is going. And there has been conversations around that and how markets have not been as stable as it would have been anticipated. So much learning for us to do. And I just hope, because a lot of technologies are coming. Remember, there's a time the country's taxi business was only manual. Or you call a taxi, the one you know, or you go and wait somewhere. Today, you request for a cab from your phone. Remember when it was these taxi apps were being introduced in the country? There was also a hue and cry, a lot of push and pull, but eventually it's part of our life. So I'm just hoping that even our legislative arms can actually go ahead of time to look for how to legislate instead of just saying that we are suspending because you don't have a legal framework. We have to find frameworks. You have to be ahead of time because that is what legal or legislative arms are supposed to be doing, looking ahead also on where the world is moving to.
Exactly. Legislate and also protect. 350,000 Kenyans gave out their data, and it's not clear what that data will be useful. Thank you, Tuku. And I think we can...
I'm very curious about that camera.
Your orb. Orb.
It's called an orb?
Yes.
It's very interesting. For those of you familiar with wrestling legends, there used to be one called The Undertaker.
Oh, yes.
They carried something very similar. It really reminded me of